All right, so today we're going to dive into some fascinating material you sent over about Eid al-Fitr in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is a huge celebration for Muslims worldwide, but
Yeah.
I'm really curious to look specifically at how it's observed in Pakistan
Okay.
and, kind of go through its history there
Mhm.
and see how it's evolved over time and,
Sure.
and, and see what we can learn from it.
That sounds great.
Sounds
So
just
I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess maybe the best place to start is, at the very beginning, like,
Hmm.
what are the origins of Eid al-Fitr? Like, where does this tradition come from?
Well, the origins of Eid al-Fitr go all the way back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Right.
It was established in Medina after the Hijrah, which was the migration from Makkah.
Oh, okay. So this
Uh,
is,
Yeah,
really early Islamic history.
very, very early.
Yeah.
The first Eid al-Fitr was actually celebrated in 604 CE,
Wow.
just after the first Ramadan fast.
Wow.
It really signifies, the completion of this month of fasting and, being grateful for
Wow.
the strength that Allah has given to you to complete it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So, we've got these sources about Eid in Pakistan, and I'm thinking about,
Uh-huh.
we talked about its origins way back when, but like when Pakistan became independent
Right.
in 1947, what did that first Eid look like?
Well, from what the sources say, it seemed to be a very unifying moment for the nation.
Okay.
Obviously going through a huge transition, people displaced, facing uncertainty.
Yeah.
And Eid really provided this sense of hope and identity for this new nation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a sense of shared purpose, maybe, or
Shared purpose, exactly.
shared joy.
Yeah, time for celebration. And
Yeah. Amidst all that turmoil.
exactly. And the government also declared it a national holiday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Right away.
right away.
Okay.
And there were mass Eid prayers held all across the country.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they recognized its importance.
Right from the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
And despite facing so many challenges at the time, like economic, political challenges,
Yeah.
Eid really became a symbol of the nation's resilience and, their faith.
Yeah. So it sounds like it served, it served a religious purpose, but also kind of a
A national purpose?
national unifying purpose. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really fascinating.
And even leaders like, Quaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah
Right.
really emphasized, you know, being unified charitable during these celebrations.
Okay, so kind of setting the tone for
Yeah, setting the tone right from the beginning.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So then as Pakistan, kind of moved into the mid 20th century, developed as a nation, how did these Eid traditions continue to evolve?
Well, as Pakistan kind of went through this socioeconomic development, especially in like the 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
Eid ul-Fitr became even more vibrant.
Okay.
And I think a big part of this was the rise of media.
Okay.
So radio and television
Wow.
started broadcasting, special Eid programs.
Okay.
You'd have religious sermons, beautiful recitations called naats.
Right.
And this really helped spread, this festive atmosphere throughout the entire country.
Okay, so it was like reaching
Reaching everyone.
more people. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then, it wasn't just the broadcast, it was the preparation.
Okay.
The shopping, the traditional Eid shopping in bazaars
Yeah.
became super popular.
Uh-huh. So like families would go out and
Yeah, families would go out, buy new clothes gifts.
Oh, wow.
Everything they needed for the celebration.
This is
It
huge.
was a big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the 80s, under General Zia-ul-Haq,
Okay.
there was this renewed emphasis on Islamic values.
Okay.
So you saw things like Zakat al-Fitr really being highlighted,
Right.
which is the charity given to the poor before Eid prayers.
Okay.
And also the importance of attending communal prayers was really emphasized during this time.
Okay. So it's kind of a
Yeah, there was a deliberate move to really strengthen that religious aspect.
Gotcha.
And you even had formal Eid greetings from the government.
Oh, wow.
So it was very much, a national...
Part of the national identity at that point.
Exactly.
Okay. So then how did things change as, satellite TV and digital media started to become, more prominent in Pakistani society?
Well, when you get into the 90s and the early 2000s,
Yeah.
that's when you saw satellite TV, digital media start to boom.
Right.
And, that introduced this new, commercial aspect to Eid celebrations.
Okay.
So television channels started producing all these special Eid dramas,
Oh, wow.
dedicated transmissions, like, talk shows.
So it became a big
It became a big part of the entertainment,
Yeah.
landscape.
Okay.
And then, at the same time, shopping malls, different brands
Mm-hmm.
realized,
Yeah.
hey, we can market specifically for Eid,
Right.
special collections discounts.
Yeah.
And that really took off.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Chandrat,
Okay.
a really big thing.
Chandrat, which is
The night before Eid,
right.
that became, its own festival
Oh, wow.
with, last-minute shopping, women and children getting their clothes and bangles. And
So it was just this
just electric atmosphere.
really cool lead up to the actual day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then obviously, we're in the digital age now. So
Uh-huh.
how has all of this, technology and social media shaped how people are experiencing Eid today?
Well, social media has become so integral to our lives.
Right.
And it's definitely impacted Eid celebrations in Pakistan.
Okay.
People are constantly exchanging digital Eid greetings,
Yeah.
sharing pictures of their outfits.
Makes sense.
And, we even saw during the COVID pandemic,
Right.
people were participating in virtual Eid prayers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of adapted to the...
Adapted to the challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. But despite all this digital stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the core traditions of Eid,
Yeah.
gathering with family, visiting relatives,
Right.
preparing traditional dishes
Yeah.
like sheer kurma, biryani samosas.
Yeah.
Those are still vital to the celebration.
Okay, so it hasn't been completely taken over.
No,
Not at all.
by the digital world.
It's more of an addition, I think,
Yeah.
than a replacement.
Gotcha.
And of course, charitable organizations still play a huge role in making sure everyone can enjoy Eid,
Right.
regardless of their financial situation.
Yeah. So that spirit of giving is still
Absolutely.
alive and well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we've talked about a lot of these traditions, but
Mm-hmm.
why don't we break them down a little bit more?
Okay.
So, starting with the moon sighting.
Okay, so the moon sighting is a huge deal in Pakistan.
Okay.
It signals the end of Ramadan, the
Yeah.
beginning of Eid. Everyone's looking to the skies,
Right.
waiting for that new crescent moon to appear.
Yeah.
And then, we have the Ru'at Hilal Committee, the National Moon Sighting Body,
Okay.
and they make the official announcement.
And the entire country tunes in.
Wow.
It's a big moment.
Yeah, it's like a national
event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we've got Chandrat,
Chandrat.
which we've already talked about a little bit.
Yeah, the night before Eid.
Just how does that play out? What actually happens?
It's a night of just like excitement and energy.
Okay.
Everyone's out doing last-minute shopping,
Okay.
buying clothes,
Yeah.
jewelry, bangles.
Right.
Women are getting together, applying henna designs,
Yeah.
and the markets are just buzzing with music, laughter.
Okay.
It's truly an experience.
So, it sounds really fun,
It is a lot of fun.
but also kind of chaotic, probably.
Yeah, it can be a little chaotic, but in a good way.
Right. In a festive way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then so we have the Eid prayers.
Right. So Eid prayers are a central part of the religious observance.
Okay.
They're performed in mosques and large open grounds called Eidgahs.
Eidas. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And, after the prayers, there's usually a sermon or khutbah. Right.
And this usually focuses on, themes of peace, unity, and charity.
Okay.
So, it's not just about the ritual.
Right.
It's about reinforcing those core values
Gotcha.
of Islam.
Okay, so like the meaning behind the holiday.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you have Zakat al-Fitr,
Right.
which is the charitable donation given to the poor before Eid prayers.
Right. So you mentioned that before. And the purpose of that is to make sure that...
Yeah, the purpose is to ensure that everybody, regardless of their income,
Yeah.
can celebrate Eid,
Gotcha.
and enjoy the festivities.
So everyone can participate.
Exactly.
Okay. And then you have the Eid tradition.
Eid, yeah.
So what is that all about?
So Eid is where elders give money, usually crisp new banknotes,
Okay.
to children
Okay.
as a symbol of love, blessings, and good fortune.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a big deal for the kids.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got the feasting.
The feasting. Oh, yeah.
So what kinds of foods are we talking about here? Well, you have to have sheer kurma,
Cheer kurma. Okay.
which is this delicious sweet vermicelli dessert.
Okay.
And then, biryani samosas,
Right.
all the classic.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And families, they open their homes to relatives, friends, neighbors.
Uh-huh.
And it's all about, sharing meals, spending time together.
Yeah.
Strengthening those community bonds.
Yeah. So it's like a real.
It's a communal celebration.
Yeah. Okay. So, this has been a really amazing overview of Eid in Pakistan.
It's been great talking about it.
Yeah. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
I hope so.
But, when we pull all of this together, like, what would you say is the real significance of Eid-ul-Fitr in Pakistan?
I think it goes beyond just the religious aspect.
Okay.
It's really a cultural phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
It brings people together.
Okay.
It strengthens family bonds.
Right.
It promotes this spirit of generosity and community.
Yeah.
And, we've seen how it's evolved over time.
Right. From the post-independence era to now.
Right.
But that core essence of gratitude for what you have, the unity, the joy,
Yeah.
that's remained constant.
Yeah. It's really interesting how, something can adapt with the times, but still kind of retain that.
That essence.
Yeah, that essence.
Yeah.
Okay, so, just to kind of wrap things up here.
Sure.
I think this has been a really, fascinating deep dive into the history and traditions of Eid.
Yeah.
And it's clearly a really important and meaningful celebration.
Absolutely.
That's really stood the test of time.
Yeah, it really has.
But it also kind of makes me think, like, how do you know
Mm.
these traditions, especially religious and cultural traditions,
Yeah.
how do they maintain their meaning
Yeah.
in this constantly changing world?
That's a good question.
With all the technology and globalization, and
Yeah.
how do they adapt but still hold on to their core values?
Something to think about.
Yeah, it is. And I think it'll be really interesting to see, how Eid continues to evolve
Yeah.
in the future.
In Pakistan and around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating.
Well, this has been great.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
Thanks for sharing all this with me. And
You're welcome.
yeah, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Okay.
Thanks again,
Thank you.
and we'll see you next time.
See you later.